My dear friend, let me ask you something right now with all the urgency of eternity weighing on this moment. Are you truly allowing God to lead you every single day of your life? Or have you been moving through the hours on autopilot, letting fear, doubt, pride, and the voices of this noisy world tell you who you are and where to go? Because I tell you this with a heart burning with truth, until you allow God to lead you daily, you will always be restless, wandering, searching, and never finding peace. There is a stillness that only comes when your soul is aligned with the one who created it. And that stillness is not found in money, not in power, not in relationships, not in accomplishments. It is found when you stop leading yourself and let God take the reins of your heart, until you give Him that control, until you humble yourself and bow before His will. You will always be led by something lesser. And whatever leads you shapes you. And if it's not God, then it's the world. And the world has no mercy for the soul. Every day, from the moment you wake up, there are two paths before you: the path of surrender or the path of self. One leads to purpose and peace, the other to confusion and destruction. And too many people, even those who say they believe, choose self. They wake up, and instead of asking God, "Where would you have me go today? What would you have me do?" they rush into their plans, chasing things that will crumble, answering to people who don't care for their soul, filling their mind with noise and silencing the voice of God with their own ambitions. But hear me clearly, you were never created to lead your life on your own. That was never the design. God made you with a blueprint, and that blueprint requires His voice guiding every single step, not just in moments of crisis, not just when your plans fall apart, not just when you're desperate and broken. Every day, every hour, every breath. There is a power that comes when you let God lead you, and it's not the power the world brags about. It's not the kind that puffs up with pride. It's not loud or flashy. It's a quiet, unshakable confidence that says, "I may not know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds it, and I will walk in step with Him." That kind of peace shakes the gates of hell. That kind of obedience confuses the enemy. Because when you are led by God, you cannot be manipulated by man. Let me tell you something about this world. It will try to program you. It will try to script your life, define your worth, tell you who you should be, what you should chase, what you should desire. But God never speaks through chaos. He speaks through conviction, through clarity, through peace, through purpose. When you are tuned into His voice, you stop being driven by the noise around you. You become anchored. You become stable. You become unmovable. And that's the secret. Stability does not come from control. It comes from surrender. I have seen people lose everything and still walk with joy because they were led by God. I have seen others gain everything and still feel empty because they were led by self. What you follow matters more than what you have, because what you follow becomes your God, and if it isn't God leading you, then something else is. And that something else will always lead you into a wilderness you were never meant to enter. There is a deep longing inside every human heart, a longing to be led, and you may not admit it, but it's there. You were never meant to be the master of your fate. That is too heavy a burden for any soul. You were meant to follow God with your whole heart, not half, not occasionally, not when it's convenient, but daily, fully, completely. God does not want part-time loyalty. He's not looking for weekend devotion. He wants your surrender Monday through Sunday, from sunrise to sunset, and all through the long, quiet nights. Because God knows what lies ahead, you don't. And when He leads with purpose. He leads with precision. He doesn't guess, He knows. He knows who needs to walk with you and who needs to walk away. He knows what battles you should fight and which ones you need to be still and let Him handle. He knows where the danger is hiding and where the blessing is waiting. But you'll never know unless you let Him lead. Too many people pray for God's blessing while still holding the wheel. You cannot ask for divine direction while clinging to your own map. That's not surrender. That's contradiction. If you want God's best, you must be willing to drop your plan and trust His path, even when it's unfamiliar, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's unpopular. Let me speak clearly to the one who feels stuck. You've tried everything. You've done it your way. You've pushed and pulled and begged and worked until your hands bled, and still the peace escapes you. Maybe, just maybe, it's because you're still trying to lead yourself. Stop. Stop wrestling. Stop striving. Stop resisting. Let God lead you. There's a rhythm to the life that follows God. It doesn't move in panic. It doesn't race in fear. It moves in wisdom and purpose and discernment. Every step ordered, every move measured, every door opened at the right time, every delay full of hidden protection. That's the kind of life you were made for. A life not led by emotion, but by God's voice. And don't you let the devil lie to you? Don't you let your past tell you you're unworthy to be led by God? Don't you let shame keep you in the dark? God doesn't call the perfect. He leads the surrendered. He's not looking for performance. He's looking for trust. He's not impressed by how strong you act. He moves when you finally admit how much you need Him. When you truly allow God to lead you, you stop needing approval from people. You stop chasing validation. You stop measuring your worth by the standards of this temporary world. Because the one who is led by God knows, I am already chosen, already seen, already guided by the one who knows the end from the beginning. That kind of faith breaks chains. That kind of obedience sets you apart. But don't mistake God's leading for comfort. Sometimes He will lead you through fire, not to burn you, but to purify you. Sometimes He will lead you into storms, not to destroy you, but to reveal that He is your anchor. Sometimes He will lead you into isolation, not to punish you, but to separate you from what's been poisoning your soul. God's leading will not always make sense, but it will always make you stronger. It will always take you higher. It will always grow your character and sharpen your purpose. You see, the blessing is not in the destination. The blessing is in the guidance, knowing that every step I take is not random, but directed by the hand of the Almighty. That's where the strength comes from. That's where the peace is born. I can walk through the valley. I can sit in the waiting. I can face the opposition because I know God is leading me. And there is no greater honor than to be led by God. Not led by fame, not led by money, not led by the crowd, but led by the quiet, powerful whisper of God that speaks to your heart and says, this is the way, walk in it. How many blessings have been missed because someone refused to listen? How many storms could have been avoided if you had just stopped long enough to say, God, what would you have me do? But the beautiful truth is, it's not too late. No matter how far you've wandered, no matter how long you've led yourself, no matter how broken your past has been, God is still ready to lead you right now, this very moment. But you must choose. He won't force you. He won't drag you. He invites. He calls. He waits. And when you answer, when you finally lay your pride down and say, God, I can't do this without you, heaven begins to move. Every giant begins to fall. Every lie starts to unravel. Every fear begins to lose its grip. Because when God leads, He leads in truth, in light, in victory. Not always easy, but always right, always purposeful, always filled with what your soul was truly craving all along. Let this settle deep within your heart. If you don't allow God to lead you, then you will be led by something far more dangerous, your own desires. And the heart, when left to its own understanding, will always drift toward destruction. You cannot trust your emotions to guide you. You cannot lean on your feelings to define your truth. One day you'll feel strong, the next day weak. One moment confident, the next consumed by anxiety. But God is unchanging, eternal, flawless in wisdom, and when you are led by Him, you are no longer at the mercy of your fluctuating feelings. You are planted. You are grounded. You are walking a path carved by divine hand. The world teaches self-reliance. It celebrates independence. It glorifies doing things your way. But that mindset is the very root of spiritual blindness. True freedom is not found in leading yourself. It's found in submission to the one who made you. You were not created to carry the full weight of your decisions on your own shoulders. God did not design your mind to bear the burden of life's uncertainties alone. That's why He calls you to trust Him. That's why He beckons you into daily dependence, not as a sign of weakness, but as the highest act of wisdom and strength. When God leads, He does not just show you the way. He becomes your way. He does not just give direction. He becomes your direction. Every morning you rise, He is already there. Every night you lay your head down, He is still watching. He is not distant. He is not indifferent. He is near to the one who seeks His guidance. He honors those who humble themselves and cry out, "God, without you I am lost." There is nothing more dangerous than delayed obedience. Many people say they are waiting on God, but in reality, God is waiting on them to surrender, to obey, to let go. God has already paved the way, already placed the provision, already cleared the storm, but until you step under His leadership, you will never walk in what He has prepared. He does not force His will upon the proud. He speaks to the one whose heart is bowed in reverence and readiness. Let me tell you this plainly. God will lead you where your talent cannot take you, where your education cannot open doors, where your background has no influence, because when He leads, He bypasses man-made qualifications. He elevates the lowly. He promotes the forgotten. He establishes the rejected. That is the power of divine direction. He doesn't need your resume. He needs your willingness. You see, being led by God isn't just about big life decisions. It's about every single moment. It's about the attitude you choose when someone wrongs you. It's about the way you speak when no one is listening. It's about the thoughts you entertain when you're alone. God doesn't want to lead you just in the crossroads. He wants to lead you in the silence, in the stillness, in the ordinary. That's where real character is formed. That's where the fire of true faith is built. And I must speak directly to the soul who feels forgotten, abandoned, left behind. Listen to me. God has not ignored your cry. He has not missed a single tear. But sometimes He leads through delay. Not because He is cruel, but because He is protecting what is sacred. He is pruning what is poisonous. He is developing in you what shallow blessings could never produce. You think you're waiting, but God is working. And when you let Him lead, even the waiting becomes holy ground. Too often people pray for God's direction, but they don't prepare to obey it. Don't ask God to lead you if you're not willing to leave behind what's holding you back. God cannot direct a life that clings to the very things He wants to remove. Obedience means letting go, even when it hurts, trusting when it doesn't make sense, moving when the path is not fully visible. That is faith. And faith without action is just talk. If you want to experience the fullness of God's leadership, you must die to your own agenda. Not once, but every single day. You must wake up and say, "God, override my plans. Cancel what needs to be canceled. Rearrange what I cannot see. Interrupt me if you must, but don't let me walk a path you haven't ordained." That is the kind of surrender that makes the heavens move. That is the heart God delights in. Not perfection, not performance, but total trust. You must also understand this. When God leads you, He will often take you the long way, not the fast way. He will lead you through discomfort to train your endurance. He will lead you through scarcity to teach you provision. He will lead you through rejection to show you where true value comes from. These are not detours, they are divine training grounds. And those who are truly led by God know that his delays are not denials, they are refinements. They are sacred seasons where your spirit is being strengthened. And when God leads you, he doesn't just guide your feet, he renews your mind. You begin to see life differently. The things that once enticed you no longer tempt you. The distractions that once pulled you begin to fade. Your cravings shift. Your focus sharpens, because the closer you walk with God, the less room there is for noise. He filters your desires. He reorders your passions. He fills your soul with purpose, and that purpose becomes your compass. Let me ask you again, who is leading you? What voice is shaping your decisions? If it isn't God, then you are being led by something unworthy of your soul. Because only God sees the whole picture. Only God knows what lies beneath the surface. People may flatter you, deceive you, mislead you, but God sees what man cannot. And when he leads, he doesn't just lead you to opportunity, he leads you away from danger. He blocks what you were never meant to receive. He closes doors that look good on the outside but are empty on the inside. He disappoints your flesh to protect your future. You must learn to thank God not just for open doors, but for closed ones. Because sometimes the very thing you prayed for was not a blessing, it was a distraction. And in his mercy, God said no. That is leadership. That is love. That is the kind of guidance that saves your life, even when it stings your pride. And let's be honest, it takes courage to let God lead. It takes boldness to go against the grain, to walk by faith when others walk by sight, to be still when others run, to trust the invisible hand of God more than the visible approval of man. But hear me, God never abandons the one who follows him with a pure heart. He will make a way where there is no way. He will bring water from dry ground. He will raise you up when the world counts you out. But you must be consistent, not 1 foot in and 1 foot out, not faithful when it's easy and doubting when it's hard. You must walk in step with God through every season, through the mountain and the valley, through the joy and the sorrow, because leadership from God is not seasonal. It's a lifestyle, a sacred alignment, a daily communion. And when you live like that, you begin to carry a power that nothing on earth can replicate. The power of a soul led by God. And so, my friend, don't delay. Don't harden your heart. Don't ignore the whisper. God is calling you right now to follow him more deeply than ever before. Not casually, not occasionally, but completely. Because what he wants to do in your life cannot be done through partial obedience. What he wants to build in you requires full surrender. You may not know every step ahead, but when you know who is leading, you don't need to. You walk with trust, you move with reverence, you live with peace. And I must say this, not to stir emotion, but to awaken the slumbering soul. There's no greater tragedy than a life lived outside the leadership of God. You can possess the finest education, the largest bank account, the highest accolades, and still be wandering in the dark, because success without direction is just noise. Movement without meaning is just exhaustion. But when God leads you, your steps are no longer random, they are ordered. Every encounter becomes divine, every delay becomes intentional, every setback becomes a setup for something higher. That is the difference between living and simply existing. The truth many avoid is this: it takes discipline to be led by God. This isn't a path for the lazy or the double-minded. This is a walk that demands your whole heart. Because the world is full of distractions, constant temptations pulling you in every direction, opinions, trends, fears. You cannot follow God with divided focus. You cannot walk with one eye on the world and one on the path of righteousness. The soul must choose. And when you choose to follow God, you must train your spirit to listen above the noise, to stay still in the storm, to trust when others panic, to walk slowly when the world is rushing. Let me tell you something few dare to say. God's direction will often cost you comfort. It may cost you friends. It may cost you opportunities. It may even cost you admiration, but it will give you something no man can offer. Peace that flows like a river, clarity that pierces confusion, and strength that holds you when everything around you collapses. The reward for obedience is not just the outcome, it's the unshakable presence of God that walks beside you through every twist of the journey. And we're not created to be led by trends. You were not created to be molded by fear. You were created to be shaped by the hand of the Almighty. And when you resist His leading, you resist your very design. You rob yourself of the life you were born to live. You settle for imitation instead of destiny. And destiny can only be fulfilled under God's command. So I ask you again, not with judgment, but with urgency, who is charting your course? When you wake up, whose voice do you seek? When decisions weigh heavy, whose wisdom do you lean on? When the unknown stares you down, do you reach for man, or do you fall on your knees and say, God, I will not take one step unless you lead me? Because there is power in that kind of surrender. Power that breaks generational chains. Power that silences every lie. Power that causes heaven to move on your behalf. God does not lead aimlessly. He leads with purpose. And when you place your hand in His, your life takes on a divine rhythm. You begin to walk not just through the world, but above it. Temptation loses its grip. The opinions of others lose their power. The chaos of the world no longer shakes you. Why? Because your eyes are fixed. Your heart is anchored. Your soul is led by the one who is eternal. Let me speak directly to the dreamer, the visionary, the one with burning purpose but paralyzed steps. You've been trying to make it happen by force. You've been chasing results without direction, but your gift alone is not enough. It must be surrendered to the leadership of God, because when He leads, He doesn't just make a way, He transforms you along the way. He prepares you for what you are praying for. He builds your character before He delivers your calling. He establishes your foundation before He enlarges your territory. And to the one who is tired, who has followed and not yet seen the fruit, I say this to you: God's guidance is not measured by immediate results, but by eternal impact. You may not see what He's doing yet, but that doesn't mean He's not working. In fact, the longer the preparation, the greater the purpose, the deeper the surrender, the higher the elevation. And when He finally reveals what He's been building in the dark, it will be so much greater than anything you could have constructed on your own. But you must continue. You must not retreat. You must walk even when the path is dim, even when your legs tremble, even when the voices around you say, give up, because the one who is led by God cannot be stopped by man. Obedience always opens doors that hustle never could. Faithful steps move mountains that force cannot budge. And know this: God never gives partial guidance. When He leads, He does so completely. If you only hear fragments, it's not because God is unclear, it's because distraction has deafened your ear. You must tune your spirit, quiet your flesh, purify your motive. Then the voice becomes clear, the steps become sure, the direction becomes undeniable. Don't let familiarity fool you. Just because you've walked a certain path before doesn't mean God is leading you there again. Just because it worked last season doesn't mean it's meant for this one. Being led by God requires constant sensitivity. You cannot live on yesterday's instructions. You need fresh guidance, new direction, daily surrender. Because each day brings new battles, new assignments, and new levels of responsibility. And hear me now, you are not too broken to be led. You are not too lost to be found. You are not too late to begin. God is not limited by your past. He is not intimidated by your weakness. He is not disappointed in your journey. but he will not compete with your pride. He waits for the humble heart. He responds to the surrendered soul. The moment you say, God, not my will but yours, you shift the atmosphere. You realign with your assignment. You step out of confusion and into clarity. And I say this with the fire of truth burning in my soul. If you truly want to see the power of God at work in your life, you must stop negotiating with His instructions. Stop picking and choosing which commands you'll follow. Stop filtering His direction through your comfort zone. You cannot receive the fullness of God's guidance while holding on to partial obedience. The path to greatness is narrow, not because God is cruel, but because He's precise. He doesn't waste steps. He doesn't give random orders. Every command is for your protection. Every instruction is for your elevation. Every delay is for your preparation. God does not speak to impress you. He speaks to align you. And when He gives a word, it is not for your entertainment, it is for your transformation. His direction demands response. And not just words from your lips, but movement from your spirit. Because true obedience doesn't wait for convenience, it moves at the sound of God's whisper. And when you learn to move at His voice, you unlock blessings that no eye has seen, no ear has heard, and no mind could ever imagine. But many miss this. They want God to speak clearly, but they haven't created space for Him to speak at all. They fill their lives with distractions, their minds with noise, their days with hurry, and then wonder why they feel lost. God does not shout over chaos, He speaks in stillness. He leads those who are willing to slow down, to be quiet, to seek His face above all. If you want divine direction, you must cultivate divine devotion. You must hunger for God's guidance more than you hunger for the opinions of men. And hear this, God will not lead a heart that is still chasing idols. You cannot be led by God while being ruled by greed. You cannot be guided by the Almighty while being chained to bitterness, to ego, to lust, to fear. These things cloud your spirit. They block your discernment. They corrupt your perspective. And God, in His mercy, will often strip away those attachments, not to punish you, but to free you. Because He cannot pour destiny into a vessel that's already full of pride. When God begins to lead you, He also begins to cleanse you. He will refine your motives. He will expose your intentions. He will reveal what has been hiding in the corners of your soul. Not to shame you, but to sanctify you, because His leadership is not just about external decisions, it's about internal purification. He's not only concerned with where you're going, He's deeply invested in who you are becoming. And the more you surrender, the more He shapes you. The more you yield, the more He molds your spirit into strength. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're being led by something higher. You no longer need to force outcomes, manipulate people, or chase affirmation. God becomes your compass, your confidence, your source. You are no longer driven by pressure. You are driven by purpose. Let me make it plain. God's leadership will often challenge you before it blesses you. It will require sacrifice. It will confront comfort. It will dismantle pride. But every painful shift is preparing you for the weight of the calling that's ahead. Every instruction you obey, even when it hurts, is like a seed planted in faith that will one day produce fruit so abundant it will overflow into generations. But the seed must fall at the ground and die. Your plans must die. Your timelines must die. Your expectations must be placed on the altar. Because the one who is led by God must walk by faith, not by sight. Faith doesn't demand a roadmap, it demands trust. And trust is tested when the way is unclear, when the path looks barren, when the next step feels risky. That is where true surrender is born. Not in the sunlight of clarity, but in the shadows of uncertainty, where you choose to say, God, I don't see the outcome, but I know your character. I trust your heart more than I fear the unknown. That's where transformation begins. That's where faith becomes real. Not in theory, but in practice. Not in lip service, but in life lived on the edge of divine dependence. That is the fire God uses to burn away the shallow life you've known and replace it with something eternal. That is how you are forged into a vessel worthy of His power. And once you begin to walk like this, something shifts. You stop asking God to bless your plan and start asking Him to reveal His to you. You stop demanding answers and start listening for His whispers. You stop praying for comfort and start asking for courage. You no longer want what's popular. You want what's pure. You no longer fear being alone because you've tasted the sweetness of walking with God. And you know that one moment of His direction is better than 1,000 days of wandering in success without Him. Some of you have been stuck in cycles, repeating seasons that should have ended years ago, not because God is punishing you, but because you've resisted His leadership. You've prayed, yes, you've gone through the motions, but you've refused to change. You've clung to your own understanding. You've followed your own emotions. And until you fully release control, you will never step into the new thing God is trying to birth in your life. But here's the hope. It's not too late to begin again. God is still speaking. He's still calling. He's still leading. But He's waiting on you to respond. He's waiting on you to say, enough of my way, enough of empty striving, enough of delayed obedience. God, I'm ready, not to understand, but to follow, not to control, but to trust, not to lead, but to be led. That's when the breakthrough comes. That's when the confusion lifts. That's when the right doors begin to open. Not because you kicked them down, but because you waited for the key. God's timing is perfect. His methods are flawless. His plans are detailed with wisdom beyond human comprehension. And when you align yourself with Him, you step into a flow of divine favor that cannot be earned, only received through obedience. So listen closely. Don't look for shortcuts. Don't rush what God is refining. Don't compare your journey to anyone else's. The path He has for you is sacred, specific, and saturated in purpose. And when you let Him lead, even your detours become holy. Even your trials become teachers. Even your tears become the water that nourishes the seeds of destiny. Let this sink deep into your spirit. Being led by God is not a one-time decision. It's a daily posture, a continuous surrender, a life that whispers again and again, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. And in that surrender, there is power. In that trust, there is peace. In that obedience, there is protection. So wherever you are, no matter how far you feel, no matter what mistakes you've made, lift your eyes to the heavens and declare with all your heart, God, I am ready to follow you fully, faithfully, and fearlessly. And watch what He does. Watch how He shifts things you thought were immovable. Watch how He restores what you thought was lost. Watch how He creates beauty from brokenness. Not because you deserve it, but because you finally let Him lead. And now I speak to the hidden parts of you, the places you keep guarded, the battles you fight in silence, the questions that haunt you when the world grows quiet. You wonder why your life feels heavy. You wonder why doors don't open. You wonder why, despite all your effort, your soul remains. Let me tell you the truth that breaks chains. When you resist God's leadership, you resist your own healing. When you block His guidance, you block the peace you've been begging for. It's not that God is far. It's not that He is silent. It's that the noise of your own control has drowned out His direction. You must understand, God will never compete for space in your life. He is not a background voice. He is not an accessory to your ambition. He is the source, the sustainer, the one who gives life meaning. And until you make room for him to lead, everything else will remain out of alignment. You can dress it up, you can decorate your schedule with distractions, but your soul will still whisper the truth. I need God to lead me. This is not weakness. This is not failure. This is the deepest kind of wisdom, to acknowledge that without God, even success becomes slavery. Even fame becomes emptiness. Even love becomes temporary, because the foundation is unstable. But when God leads, when he truly becomes the one who orders your every step, your life becomes anchored in something eternal. I say this with urgency: you cannot fake being led by God. And you may fool people, you may impress crowds, you may even convince yourself for a season, but your spirit knows, and it will ache. It will grow restless, because you were not created for a life of self-navigation. You were created to walk in communion with your Creator. That is why until you surrender your will to his, you will keep circling the same mountains, repeating the same mistakes, feeling the same emptiness. And some of you are asking, but how do I let God lead me? You start by removing the idols, remove the voices that drown out his whisper. Remove the habits that quench your awareness of him. Remove the pride that tells you that you know better. God will not force his way into a heart that refuses to make room. His leadership begins where your resistance ends, not through performance, but through humility, through an honest heart that cries out, God, I've tried it my way and I can't anymore. Take the lead. And when he begins to lead you, he will not always take you the way you expected, but he will always take you the way you need. He may not give you the shortest route, but he will give you the strongest character. He may not rush you to the destination, but he will build the strength in you to handle what's waiting. Because God does not just prepare the blessing, he prepares the vessel, and you are that vessel. Let me tell you what happens when God leads. Confusion begins to lift. That weight on your chest, it begins to ease. Not because every problem disappears, but because your soul is no longer wandering. You begin to hear clearly. You begin to see purpose in places you once saw only pain. You become more than reactive. You become prophetic. You begin to anticipate with faith instead of react with fear. That is the power of alignment. But make no mistake, when God leads you, the world will not always understand. People may question your decisions. They may label your obedience as foolishness. But you must remember, God did not call them to your path. He called you. And when you are led by God, you no longer need approval from those who are blind to your vision. You no longer need validation from those who can't see the voice that called you forward. And you must not fear the cost, because yes, it will cost you, it will cost comfort, it will cost popularity, it may cost opportunities, but whatever God asks you to release, it is only because he is making space for something far greater. He is pruning the branch so it can bear more fruit. He is cutting ties that were quietly choking your purpose. He is removing what seemed good so he can give you what is divine. Let me speak now to the one who has been led by God but has grown weary. You obeyed, you trusted, and yet the breakthrough hasn't come. The harvest hasn't appeared. Listen carefully, delay is not denial. Silence is not abandonment. When God leads, he sometimes leads you through the wilderness. Not to punish you, but to prove you, to fortify your spirit, to purify your intentions. The wilderness is not the end, it is the place between promise and possession. And those who endure, those who stay faithful in the quiet, will see a glory no man can take away. There is a weight to being led by God, but there is also a reward beyond anything the world can offer. You will walk with authority, not worldly authority, but divine authority. You will speak with weight because your words will come from a place of alignment. not ambition. You will live with clarity because your decisions are not made in haste, but in step with eternity. You will carry peace, not because life is perfect, but because your heart is in sync with the one who holds all things. So do not shrink back. Do not harden your heart. Do not hesitate at the crossroads. Choose the narrow way. Choose the quiet way. Choose the way that demands sacrifice but leads to glory. Choose to be led not by flesh, not by fear, not by the opinions of others, but by God alone. Let your mornings begin with surrender. Let your days be guided by His whispers. Let your nights be filled with reflection on His hand moving in unseen ways. And when storms come, you won't be shaken. When enemies rise, you won't be afraid, because you'll know you are not alone. You are not lost. You are led. And if you hold on to that, if you live from that truth, if you follow with full faith, God will take you places you never dreamed possible. He will open doors no man can shut. He will raise you in due season. He will protect you from dangers you never even knew existed. He will surround you with peace that transcends understanding. And He will fulfill His purpose in you, not because you are perfect, but because you are surrendered. That is the kind of life worth living. That is the kind of journey worth walking. That is the kind of leadership worth trusting. So today, this moment, this breath, let it be the turning point. Let it be the day you say, once and for all, God, take over, guide me, shape me, lead me, and then walk boldly, because your steps are now held in the hands of the Almighty. So now let this truth anchor your soul. There is no safer place, no higher calling, and no greater peace than being led by God. Not just in the moments when life is calm, but especially in the storms, especially in the silence, especially in the uncertainty. For when God leads, you are never walking blindly. You are walking in divine order. You are not lost. You are being positioned. You are not overlooked. You are being prepared. You are not delayed. You are being developed. And so I urge you, from the depths of my spirit, make this the day you stop striving and start surrendering. Let go of the need to control, the pressure to please, the fear of the unknown. Lift your heart and declare with unwavering resolve, God, I will no longer lean on my own understanding. I will no longer be moved by noise or fear. I will be led fully, freely, and faithfully by you alone. Because in the end, your legacy will not be measured by how much you gained, but by how much you obeyed. Not by how far you ran, but by how closely you walked with the one who created you. Let your story be one of faith, obedience, and unwavering trust in the leadership of God. Let your every step, every word, every decision reflect the truth that you were never your own. You were always His, led by His hand, covered by His mercy, and carried by His purpose. And as you move forward from this moment, never forget, when God leads, no force can stop you. No enemy can defeat you. No obstacle can block you. You will rise not by power, not by might, but by the will of the Almighty guiding your every breath. Let God lead you, and watch your life become a testimony of His glory.